Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm so excited to be talking about strategy RPGs today. It is one of my favorite genres in the world. And a friend had asked me about my top like 5 or 10 favorite strategy RPGs, and I was like, wow, I know a few of them off the top of my head, but I've never really made a list. So that prompted me to make this video. Just keep in mind, these are my favorites, okay, guys? This is not an objective list. Like, hint, hint, Tactics Ogre is not in my top 15. Sorry. I know it's in many of yours, and I really respect that, but it's not in mine. My goal here is to have fun with this video for me and for you guys, and also potentially to get people who might be looking to play some of these games or get into the genre, maybe to find a unique game that they wouldn't have thought about or seen on like a top 10 list. But anyway, some of those games will be on here too, so who knows? We'll see. Anyway, let's have fun and jump right into this. Number 15 is Arc the Lad 2. This game was most famous for coming out as a giant box set Arc the Lad collection from Working Designs on PS1. I remember when this game came out, it was so cool after those Lunar box sets. And there were 5 discs in this one. There's Arc the Lad 1, 2, and 3, like a battle arena. And I think that last disc, hell, it's on my shelf right in front of me. I think it's like a soundtrack or a demo or making of or something like that. Not important. But Arc the Lad 2 stands out as the best game in this series, even though they actually do continue and you can even transfer your data over between some of the games. So what makes Arc the Lad 2 so amazing? It's ambitious. It's almost like a different take on Shining Force. You have freedom to explore cities, freedom to explore dungeons. The combat is not like very static with like specific grids to walk on. It's really, really ambitious and fun to explore, especially with the themes being kind of more modern. And they're a little dark, but you have Working Design, so it's a very witty script that doesn't go over the top. I think they reeled it in enough to have a really witty, pertinent script that really works well. And it's a very sizable RPG. You're going to squeeze 40 hours out of this one. And yeah, tons of characters to play with, tons of abilities. And the battles are pretty standard, honestly, but they're really well done, and the exploration adds a ton to this game. The overall takeaway to me is just, it feels like a different take on the Shining Force formula. And wow, it just makes me question, like, why is free roam not in more strategy RPGs? Number 14 is Sayuki Journey West. Definitely a very, very underrated RPG that probably wouldn't make it on most people's lists. Part of that reason is it came out in 2001 in the West. It was developed by Koei, and the graphics looked honestly pretty bad for the time, if I have to be totally honest. Though the aesthetics are really nice. The music's kind of charming. The actual design of the game and the characters looks pretty good. It's a game that's based on the classic Chinese novel Journey to the West. And Sayuki does play it safe in most respects. They're not going to rewrite the whole workings of how a strategy RPG works with this one, but there are a few unique features. First, many of your characters can transform into these giant beast characters that can run amok and use special commands for a few turns and get you out of a jam. There's also some damage differentials, if you attack a character from behind, there will be more damage added to the attack, or if you attack from the front, it'll be subtracted. So there is a little bit more going on than just a plain vanilla RPG, but I think that's what people don't like, is this game seems a little bit vanilla, or they just didn't play it. And while I would argue that it's maybe vanilla in terms of just not rewriting the rules, the Asian aesthetic is really charming. It's amazing. The characters, like Goku especially, have really fun dialogue that I enjoy listening to. And it's a really fun game. The game's very fast-paced. The battles are slick. There's not really a ton of input time between turns, or maybe input lag, however you want to define that. Really, really, really underrated game that I wish more people would play.
I do not mean to question, my lord, but did you not dine on an extravagant plateful? Only I should remove your tongue for such insolence.
Number 13 catapults us into modern times with Unicorn Overlord. This game, wow, it was so popular last year in 2024. It gets a little different than every other entry in this list because it's actually a real-time strategy game specifically designed for consoles. Think a supercharged Augur battle that runs way faster with tons more options. And with Vanillaware at the helm, you're getting the most stunningly gorgeous 2D visuals you could ever imagine. And yeah, the whole game just flows so well. I will say, I am only about 6 or 7 hours into this game, but it's already really high on my list. If I were to beat this, wow, this could definitely be a top 10. And that's doing it without really being an epic story. The story's just kind of there, to my opinion. Like, sure, some of the side stories are kind of interesting, but it's kind of high fantasy, blah, blah, blah. What stuck out to me was the exploration of the overworld, building up the cities, garrisoning my troops, just exploring that beautiful, beautiful world. And of course, the sexy combat. The combat's really incredible. Instead of being very basic and just being able to mow down everything, there's a unique system where your characters tire. So if you do end up using one character too much, they will eventually just sort of get too weak to move, and then enemies can easily just destroy them. And so you've really got to manipulate like which units you're bringing into the battle, which ones you're using to attack enemies, where you're moving them. And there's a lot of strategy in it, and it gets a lot deeper than that when you start choosing like commands and what your characters actually have for stats and stuff. But luckily, you can actually automate that optimization for the most part. So breathtakingly well-made game, super deep. I do not see any console real-time strategy game beating this for a very, very long time. Number 12, we have Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor, a DS classic. And people don't talk about this game. I mean, I know that it's popular, it's really well reviewed, but I do feel like this is one of the more underrated SMT games. It has a really unique, awesome concept. I liked how the numbers appeared over your characters' heads, and it kind of gave you an indication of how many days that character had to live before they would die. And you as the player could manipulate that via your decisions, so some characters could live or die based on the decisions you make. It felt like there was a lot of gravity to the story. However, what makes the game really over the top on top of that is the unique combat that is a unique combination of sort of that classic strategy, grid-based RPG, mixed with turn-based combat when you engage enemies. And of course, that's running alongside the whole theme of being able to get new demons, fuse them together, and really just build up the strongest demons to use in combat. It's a challenging game, but one that's so good that I think that if you really enjoy that kind of tough as nails SMT classic combat, just play this game. It's so good, and I really want a remake for this game. The Switch 2 would be perfect.
He's my vassal. He lost to me in battle, so I made him my slave. His new name is Slayer of the Netherworld.
Number 11, I can't believe it's this low, is Disgaea, a game that is so iconic and is still a long-running series. It's active. But older gamers might remember in 2003, this game actually shook the foundations of strategy RPGs and just RPGs in general. They were a dime a dozen on the PS2, and so people didn't really pay attention to a lot of them, but wow, this game blew up in 2003 and really rewrote the strategy RPG rulebook in a period where I think there was a little bit of lag between Final Fantasy Tactics and what would come next as that big new series. Well, it was Disgaea. And what made it so amazing was the kind of evil, well, like pathetically evil characters, like watching Laharl and Flan banter about love and the kind of myriad of wacky villains standing in your way. But the thing that I think solidifies it for most people is just the craziness in what you can do. There's an insane amount of content. You know, you got your main story, of course. You can grind, you can throw characters, you can explore geopanels and manipulate the battlefield. You can spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours in the item world crafting, strengthening rather, a single item or a weapon. It's insane. So Disgaea is a game series that deserves all the credit in the world. I think some of the games can be a little bit too similar. I've not played all of them, but amazing series if you don't have that much adulting to do, because wow, you can really sink hours and hours into this game. I mean, hundreds of hours, and level up your characters into the thousands. Into the top 10, we start off with XCOM, and I played XCOM Enemy Within. I cannot wait to eventually try XCOM 2. But wow, I didn't discover this till way after the fact, and it's such a fun game. I really feel like it's almost designed for my kind of brain. Like, the combat is so tense. You're trying to find cover. You're trying to take good shots at the enemies. If you just bombard them, you will die, and when your characters die in this game, they're permanently dead. And so you need to create new characters. But on top of that, it's the stuff you're doing outside of combat too. I mean, you're doing a lot of management stuff. I mean, you're trying to build up scientific research. You're trying to get satellites in the sky so you can detect aliens and doing a bunch of other things. And all of the stuff synthesizes really well. Like, if you don't allocate your funds very well, or you sell off too much of your materials, you might not be able to get better armor and stuff for your fighters. And so there is a chance that you can actually not beat the campaign. And for me, it was a struggle, because I had characters die on me, and I would always kind of be crying like, oh my god, that character's gone. Like, that, it breaks my heart. I don't know if I can continue playing. And so I really need to start this one over. and beat it finally so I can get to the second game. But this game is definitely for people who want a challenge and to constantly have to think their way out of a jam. Number 9 is Valkyria Chronicles 1 and 4, More 1. This is a weird one because I played most of this game when I was bedridden with the flu. Should be a horrible memory, but this game is the one thing that it's one thing I could do because I couldn't really go out, and it gave me some kind of hope and something to focus on other than feeling utterly horrible. What I discovered is a beautiful watercolored world, something kind of like our own and kind of a World War II era type of thing with a different form of energy they used to fuel tanks. But outside of that, I really liked the cast in the first game. Welkin and Alicia were great. The villains were believable. Unlike the freaking awful anime tropey villains in Valkyria Chronicles 4 or Riley. Oh, God. I wish 4 had better characters other than Raz or Kai, respect to those two, because the combat is actually better in 4. The story and characters are not. What makes these games really amazing is it's just a unique system where you have a bar, kind of like an AP bar or something, so you can run freely on the map, but if that bar expires, you can't move anymore. But it's active, so enemies can fire on you as you're moving, and if you get stuck somewhere in the line of enemy fire, you can be just torn down. And the same thing with enemies, like if you set up characters well, you can actually mow down enemies too, so it's kind of like strategic in terms of enemy and character placement versus trying to get to objectives, and it's really, really fun. I've never played anything like it. They are kind of flawed. The first game has some really cheap moves in terms of reinforcements, but overall really fun games. As long as you save it often, you won't find many funner games to play in the strategy RPG universe than Valkyria Chronicles. Number 8 is a game that's near and dear to my heart, Vandal Hearts 1 on the PS1. This was an early game for that console, coming out in 1996, released by Konami. And it's also kind of a game, I would say, that's inspired by Shining Force, kind of like Art the Lad, but a bit more so in this one, I think. Shining Force kind of borrows the promotion system where you can promote characters into 2 classes, and it really takes that kind of sense of just kind of very snappy combat from Shining Force, where it's kind of more about simplicity over super complex systems. But Vandal Hearts might be most remembered for just the geysers of blood that gush out when you kill a character, but there's a lot of other stuff to love too. And yes, the story is not one of those things. It's pretty mediocre, so let's skip over that and move right on to the amazing combat. Because what the combat does so well, other than being snappy, other than having the fun promotion system, is the win conditions. Vandal Hearts is not a game where you're usually going to be just having to slaughter the enemies. There are battles like that, but a lot of the battles have unique win conditions. Like there's some where you have a certain amount of turns to escape an ambush or get an enemy in an ambush. There's some where you're trying not to let villagers die. So, there's a lot of win conditions, and it really makes this game stand out amongst the competition. So Vandal Hearts often gets shafted by people, but just in terms of raw fun factor, how short this game is, how replayable it is, not many games can beat Vandal Hearts. It's excellent, well-balanced, and yeah, the geysers of blood rock. Number 7 is my one and only Fire Emblem game in this list, Fire Emblem Awakening on the 3DS. Wow, I love this game. I remember getting this and just being blown away because my prior experience was only with the Game Boy Advance games, which are amazing too, but this just took it to another level. It does everything right. I mean, there's tons of battles and maps, optional battles. The difficulty is really balanced. The maps are well-sized and really fun to explore, diverse. The soundtrack's amazing. I like the world map system, and the story, while just kind of being meh, like a typical Fire Emblem game, does come to life a bit with being able to chat with your characters outside of battle and having actual cutscenes on the 3DS. So yeah, this game has it all. I mean, the classic Fire Emblem elements, such as the classes, weapons triangle, permadeath, promotions, tons of strategy. Plus, there's a unique system where you can bring your characters together, you can combine them to create stronger units, which is really fun to play with too. There's just a lot of combinations to play with. This game just ticks off every box that makes a great Fire Emblem a great Fire Emblem. Plus, it just goes above and beyond, in my opinion, with the amazing music, the campaign, and just the scope of the game itself on the 3DS.
On this, I cannot be swayed.
Number 6 is Triangle Strategy, one of the more recent entries here, coming out in 2002, made by Square Enix on the Nintendo Switch. And honestly, what made this game famous at first was the use of those HD 2D graphics that made Octopath Traveler so popular and have since made Dragon Quest III HD Remake popular. But yeah, Triangle Strategy is really cool. It's almost like a reverse Final Fantasy Tactics where there's no classes, but every character has a very, very unique skill set. Like Anna's a thief, and she has kind of like stealth abilities, while Benedict's a character who's going to focus on buffs. And there's tons of other characters running from generic to pretty unique in that game to toy around with. But the icing on the cake in terms of battles is also, much like Vandal Hearts, there's a lot of different win conditions. This game is not satisfied with just saying, hey, go out there and slaughter the enemies. No, you're going to be doing a lot of unique battles where you're going to have to actually think about how to interact with the map in a way where you can succeed while defeating the enemies. That's not it though. This game also has an amazing contained free roam section, not as big as Shining Force 2, but it's still, you get to explore small areas where you can kind of engage with NPCs, find hidden items, dabble in the world a little bit more, and I really like this. It changed the pace. And unlike a lot of the games on this list as well, there's a pretty good story here with a lot of morality issues. You get to make decisions which can alter the gameplay and the path and which characters you get and stuff. And I really enjoyed that for the most part. I'm not going to spoil that here. You can watch my Triangle Strategy review to get more of a take on that. But yeah, Triangle Strategy in essence is the best strategy RPG Square Enix has made this century, and it gets almost everything right. The lack of classes actually strengthens the game and leads to really tight combat where players are forced to adapt their strategies to the available characters, and that is not a bad thing. Okay, I'm going to cheat a little bit here. Advance Wars 2 is my 5th pick. I know it's not exactly an RPG, but it is a strategy game. It is grid-based, and there's still a lot of focus on kind of strengthening with the units you pick and an economy system based on capturing territory, essentially, via towns and stuff. This game's just so much fun, and it does it with, like some of the other games on this list, a very lame story. I mean, some of the characters are likable. Yeah, I do like Sammy and Max, but there's no exploration, there's not really any interesting story, so how does it rank so high? Well, the answer is just incredibly fun and addicting gameplay and tons of content. I mean, there's nothing like this game. After a handful of battles, you get to play with a ton more units, naval, air, land, different types of tanks, anti-aircraft, all kinds of stuff. And there's plenty of different battles and CO abilities to play around with. And there's plenty of optional maps you can buy in the shop, and back in the day I would play this on a link cable with my brother and my cousin, so I have really good memories associated with this game. And so damn it, if this is not an RPG, I don't care. It's going to fit on my list because of my experience with it, and the fact that I think it's close enough as a strategy game to make the cut. So yes, if you want an amazingly fun strategy game that does not waste any of your time with fluff, no grinding, there's really nothing better you can play than the Advance Wars games. And of the ones I've tried, Advance Wars 2 is my favorite. Would like to try Days of Ruin someday. Number 4 is Final Fantasy Tactics, a game that a lot of people consider the very, very best in the genre. The only reason this might be ranked a little bit lower for me is that I haven't really played this in its entirety in over 20 years, and so it's really hard for me to think about this game being better than my other picks in the top 3 without having replayed it. So I'm going to give that caveat right there, just for honesty. Now, this game truly is a masterpiece, though. The story's really good, it's very Final Fantasy feeling with chocobos, Moogles, melodrama, and Delita and Ramza's rivalry is still etched in my brain after all these years. But the thing that I really think stands out about Final Fantasy Tactics is it takes no shortcuts, and there's so much going on with it. I mean, all the classes you can experiment with, and a lot of those famous ones like, summoners and magic users and knights and stuff. And the maps, I mean, wow, the maps are perfectly sized, the enemy placement is masterclass, and players really have to know how to use their units, how to use their classes, understand the enemy's movement and classes, and to me, I think this game is just an absolute master class on how you design maps and kind of actually build strategy into them, even while allowing all the freedom to choose classes. I can take nothing away from Final Fantasy Tactics. It is definitely worthy of being a number 1 pick for a lot of people. And so yes, it deserves its reputation, and if I were to replay it, it might be a little bit higher on this list because it is amazing. Number 3, taking the bronze, is Shining Force 2. This is actually my very first RPG ever, and somewhat ironically the first YouTube video I ever made that saw any real success. I mean, there's still people that comment on it, Seriously, thank you so much. I'm so happy to talk about this game with you guys. It still warms my heart. It blows my mind that that's happening. But anyway, Shining Force 2 does so much right. The reason why this ranks so highly for me, other than my history with it, is it just takes everything about Shining Force 1 and just turns it into an almost perfect game. I mean, you can explore the whole world almost freely now. Yes, not 100%, but still large swaths of it. There's tons of playable characters. The difficulty is so much better balanced than the first game. Like, for instance, when you get promoted, you don't go back to level 1. I think that the game also has kind of more fun bosses that are more challenging. Like, when I think about, like, the chess battle, for example, or the Kraken, like, really tough battles that really challenge me in a fun way. And this game just doesn't seem to age. I mean, I think that some people say it does, but I think the magic in this one just is in that simplicity. For me, that means the sprites that ooze with charm, the perky soundtrack, the promotions being really fun to play with, and having some secret promotions to choose from. And so yeah, I love Shining Force 2, always will, and I think people really should try this one if they haven't. Even if it feels a little bit weird to go back so far, because I do feel like this is the first truly almost perfect strategy RPG ever made. Oof, I know I'm going to take some hits for this one, but coming in with the silver is Shining Force 3. It is my favorite Sega Saturn game, and as you may know if you watch this channel, I love the Sega Saturn. And I'm going to include the entire trilogy here because I honestly think they play similarly enough, and they're so connected that it's kind of weird to choose one over the others for me. But yeah, let's go over some of the tragedy first, because this is a big part of this game. So this was released on a dying Saturn in '98, at least in the US, to the point where Scenarios 2 and 3 never saw a Western release. You have to play a fan translation if you even want to try these games. I mean, talk about a massive bummer. It's unfortunate, but it's the reality of it. But for you guys that actually want to experience this, if you go through with finding those ROMs or just emulate at this point, like, I don't even think it matters. Like, these games are so unattainable otherwise, especially with the first game being like $300-400, you will find a magical experience. For me, Shining Force 3 takes everything I love about Shining Force 2, and it just keeps it going. Like, yes, you sprite-based people might prefer the second game just for that reason, and I respect that, but I do actually like the 3D graphics in Shining Force 3. The combat animations look amazing. The cities have a lot of charm to them and kind of look Grande-esque to me, which I really like, and there's a lot of noticeable improvements. The towns here are bigger and more interesting. The battles, there's unique wind conditions in some of the battles now. I feel like those long battles in Shining Force 1 and 2 with the sloggy terrain are kind of gone here, and the music in Shining Force 3 is the best in the series, as well as the story, which should go without saying because these three scenarios together make up a hell of a story. So yes, Shining Force 3 is a masterpiece, and yes, the minor flaws, I think they're there, but they're easy to look past, especially those like early 3D graphics. The biggest problem is it's a shame it was released on a dying Saturn and that so few have ever experienced the entire trilogy. But seek it out, it's worth it. And finally, for number one, for me, I'm picking Vandal Hearts 2. I know a lot of people do not really love this game. But yes, I remember getting this back in like 99, 2000, walking into GameStop or EB Games as a like 11 or 12-year-old. And having the clerk that knew we liked these style of games just recommend this and let me buy this game that was rated mature. But yeah, I didn't know this game wasn't that popular until many years after the fact. I mean, it's such a fun game to me. And part of what makes it so good is the combat is like nothing else. Unlike a game where you're kind of waiting for their turn, my turn, their turn. Here, it's like a chess match where you move one piece, the enemy moves one piece, and you're trying to figure out which piece they're going to move. And so it's like, oh my god, like if I don't guess which enemy they're going to move on the board, I might lose a character. And I love the challenge associated with that in the strategy. And on top of that, there's so much customization. You can make a character of all flyers, all mages, a balanced party, do whatever the heck you want. You can make a party however you want to, and you can beat the game probably with most of those parties, assuming you're good enough to do it. And that brings me to the big elephant in the room. I know the story in this game, I will admit, is a little bit inaccessible, I think is the right word I'd want to use for it, because a lot of your characters don't really have a ton of story. A lot of it's played out with like NPCs with very political and religious themes, and it's quite serious and dark. So I like the story. Is it my favorite story of all time? No. But I do think the whole package, when it comes together, the emotions in the story, the fun combat, the amazing music, all the customization, you have one of the best, most underrated strategy RPGs of all time here, and one that has a very special place in my heart. And in fact, it's still a game I play. It's kind of like a comfort food game with Shining Force 2. So yeah, I know a lot of people don't like this one, but I would ask you to try it or give it a second look. It really is a good game if you can get past some of those sticky points, like the story being a bit expositional and focused on NPCs. All right, guys, I want to know two things from you. Number one, what is your favorite strategy RPG of all time? I'm really curious on that, especially since it might differ from mine. And number two, what game do you think I left off this list that should be on it? I want to know that because obviously there's still a ton of games I haven't played. Like, I haven't played Suikoden Tactics in its entirety. I haven't played a lot of those NIS non-Disgaea type of games. There's tons of strategy RPGs I have not experienced. So please give me a good one that I can finally play. And perhaps I'll review it in the future, and I really appreciate the conversations. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Catch you next time. Game on.